Welcome to the Emo Social Club Podcast, broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here this evening with Darro. We're so appreciative and super hyped to talk with you because I know I've heard some of your music prior to even getting an email to link up with you. So I'm super stoked that we're all here tonight to chat.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's dope. That's cool. I've never met a person who's I've never met a person who's listened to my music before I've worked with them. I've always had to send them stuff.
I definitely feel like it has either been because I listen to a lot of Sirius XM radio, so I don't know if it was there or if it was from a Spotify release radar. But I remember hearing it, I was like, oh wait, this is really good. Who is this? And I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw it a few months later. And I was like, wait a second.
Oh, that's so cool. That's good. That makes me I'm doing something right. That means I think.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, let's let you introduce yourself. Tell us about your musical journey, I guess. Your journey.
Okay.
Yeah. So start from the very beginning, the day you were born up until that. No, but
I was born on a Tuesday, February the 16th at 4 a.m.
All right.
Oh man, he's got his birth chart and everything.
Yeah, I know.
You know that
Because
he knows that much.
Shit, because I was born on a Tuesday, February the 10th. So just a week before.
Wait,
what year were you born?
Wow,
93.
Okay, yeah.
My Pisces boys, right? Yeah.
I'm an Aquarius.
Right?
I'm an Aquarius.
Yeah.
Aquarius.
Yeah.
I get along with both very well. That's all I know because I'm a Sagittarius.
Okay, that's good because if we weren't going to get along, I'd have to log out.
Well,
right now.
Good.
Nobody here's
2-minute
a fucking
podcast.
Gemini,
We did it.
right?
So my name is Darro. I guess I call myself an emo pop punk artist, Asian American, and I was born in Pennsylvania, South Central Pennsylvania. And I have been playing music since I was I want to say 12, 13, seriously at 17. My dad used to play in a Cambodian wedding band. So I'm Cambodian American, first generation. My dad used to play in a Cambodian wedding band. And I remember I would sit at the top of the stairs every Sunday before while they practiced. And I always remember Sundays were football and band practice, right? So they would practice and then they would go upstairs and watch football. And then I would come downstairs while they were watching football and I would just bang on the drums while they were, and I was really bad, but I always just I don't know. I've always had this knack for figuring stuff out or rather seeing the end result and figuring out how to get there, even when it was with music. And so I was able to hear what they were playing and kind of remember what they were playing and just kind of go down and figure out how to get the sound that they were playing. And I was doing that for years until I actually picked up a guitar. And so when I started playing the guitar, it was a whole new thing. It was the most challenging thing too, because I couldn't put my fingers on the strings. It hurt so bad. And it's that's one of the things about playing guitar. It's really painful to start.
That's why
it's
quit.
It's really discouraging too, right?
Yeah.
But if you can get past that and get to the point where you can play a song that you've been wanting to play for a really long time, it's one of the most rewarding experiences. I still love playing guitar more than anything else, more than singing, more than it's just one of the most satisfying things to do. And so, yeah, I started playing guitar when I was 12 or 13. We grew up really, I guess pretty poor. I didn't know I was poor until until I left my hometown, because I was one of the first in my entire family to do it. We are a huge family. I'm one of 23 cousins, and one of the youngest too. So all of my cousins are older than me, and I think they're all Gen X. So I'm one of 2 or 3 millennials of my generation. And so everybody stays home. Everyone stayed in my hometown, and I was one of the first to ever leave to go to college. And then when I went to college, I first went to college in Philly. I went to Temple University for 2 years. And that was when I realized I was one, I thought I was smart. I thought I was a smart kid. I'm not even kidding. Cause I went to a really urban school. I think we consistently ranked in the entire state of Pennsylvania. We ranked in the bottom 5 every year. The year that I graduated, we were 499 out of 500.
Wow.
So I want to say my class was the reason why we were not 500 because like me and my friends were like the smart kids of that grade.
Okay.
I believe you carried the entire grade on your back.
That was a weird year. We lost a lot of kids in freshman. Like I think our freshman high school class was like 470 kids, and then our graduating class was like 220.
Wow.
It was like we lost 200 kids from freshman year to high school, and that's pretty.
Wow.
It's really common in that high school. Is like a lot of kids get into gangs, and a lot of kids go to jail. Some of them just drop out. And teenage pregnancy was really high in that school. So I thought I was really smart because I was like, top 10 of the graduating class. And then I go to school where like people were actually educated in high school. Like they weren't just like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In like science class, which is what we did a lot. We did a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And hacky sack.
That sounds awesome.
That's strategy.
I know.
Like
I know.
Once in a while, that sounds great.
Yeah. Honestly, it was pretty dope. Like we did some really fucked up shit that we got away with, and we got away with it because we were like the best kids in the class. Mm-hmm. So like we were legitimately allowed to do whatever we want because like, and a lot of my friends were white. Like a lot of my friends are like the only white kids in the school. So they were just like, I was classified with them as like part of the white kids. And they were just straight up like, oh, they're the white kids. They're not doing anything wrong. Because comparatively, we were doing nothing wrong. Mm. Comparatively, we weren't like ditching class, bringing like, I don't think anyone brought weapons in, but there were like bomb threats all the time and stuff like that. Wow. So it was like a pretty like, and it wasn't even like dangerous. It was just people were like just having fun and being ridiculous about it. Mm. And so, yeah. So long story short, I thought I was like a smart kid. And then I went to college with like other people who got like a real high school education. And I just remember failing pre-calculus 3 times in a row, 3 semesters in a row. And that was like rough because like, I thought I was going to be a computer scientist, like I thought I was going to make bank.
Yeah.
And I just like, I couldn't get past logarithms or whatever the hell that was. I just couldn't do the math. And I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna go play guitar. So I just like started, I just started like skipping class.
Listen, that's what happens. I can't do fractions and here we are. So
yeah, it's just like, we're just artists. We're artists.
Start a podcast, pick up a guitar. It's like, fuck math.
Let's go.
And I'm still bad at it, but like I've gotten a lot better at math. I'm a lot older now, so like I was able to like kind of go back and like relearn all the stuff that I neglected when I was in school. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I was in freshman year, I was skipping class all the time because I wanted to practice guitar, and I was like, man, I had such a big chip on my shoulder. Like the thing is, being a guitar player in like an urban high school, right? I was like literally one of 2 guitar players, and so there was no rock influence. There was no pop punk. There was none of that. So it was like all hip hop and R&B. And I fucking love like rap music and R&B and stuff. Yeah. Like honestly, like Jay-Z is my favorite rapper of all time still. And so there wasn't anyone that I could like start a band with. Like I didn't have any like role models or guitar friends or anything like that. And so it wasn't until I got to college, and because of this, because I was all by myself, like my little guitar world, I thought I was so good. Dude, I thought I was so good. And I get to college, wasn't a music student yet, but I was like, oh, maybe I should take some guitar lessons and like because like I couldn't afford them in high school. Obviously, we were too broke. But then when I was in college, I got a part-time job, and I got the part-time job just so I could get guitar lessons. And I remember showing up to my first guitar lesson, just like having such a big head, and just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna knock this out of the water. And then he comes and he's like, can you play me like a major scale starting on D? And I was like.
You're like, I can play Smoke on Water for you.
I was like, I can play Crazy Train.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
and I remember walking home from my guitar lesson that day, and I'm just like, I think I have to quit. I was just so demoralized by how little I knew. That lasted for like an hour until I was like, no, I'm gonna be the fucking best player of all time. So then that's when I started skipping class to practice. And it went from like practicing like maybe 30 or 40 minutes a day to like 7 hours a day. Like it literally jumped from 7. Shit. And wow. I straight up like, huh?
I was about to say, like, wow, that's like
It was, dude, well, the only reason why is because like at the time, my hero was Steve Vai. And Steve Vai, one of the most innovative virtuoso guitar players of all time. And like I listened to him religiously. And like I just remember reading about him and like his interviews and stuff. And he would practice 15 hours a day. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that, but like I can maybe do 7. And so like for like two years straight, all I did was practice for like 7-8 hours a day. Like my fingers would blister, and I was just trying to make up for all the lost years that I had been practicing in my bedroom. Because I realized at the time I was exposed to the music program at Temple. I was exposed to the students that were like choosing to do music for a career. And I had it in my head that like, oh, if you want to be an artist or a musician, you have to go to school for it. And you have to practice a lot. And if you're good enough to get into a music student, then you are good enough to carry your guitar around campus. And then I never ever carried my guitar around campus because I was so like self-conscious. I was so self-conscious. I had such a chip on my shoulder, dude, that like I wouldn't let anyone know that I played the guitar unless I was good enough to be a student. So like I would just I practiced in my room for I swear to God, 7-8 hours a day. And I stopped hanging out with my friends. Like I missed a year and a half of like friendship in college and like building and stuff like that because I was just so focused. And then I started taking lessons from 2 teachers at a time because I was taking one for rock and then one for jazz. And so like I was like, so the way that I split up my days was like 3.5 hours of jazz, take a break, come back, and then 3.5 hours of rock. Right. And I was just like doing that every day for like literally 2 years. And then when it was time to audition for school, I was like, all right, I'm going to audition for the Temple University music program. And then I'm going to audition for Berklee College of Music in Boston. Cause Berklee was like my dream school. Sure. And then I got into both. I was like so excited. I was like, oh my God, like I'm good enough to like play guitar. Like I'm good enough to be a real student or whatever. It's total bullshit, complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. But it was like it was like the validation that I needed to keep going, you know? And then I started carrying my guitar around school. Like I was like, oh, like I'm good enough to like have my guitar. And so that was such a huge chip on my shoulder that like I was able to prove to myself that like I was good at something, you know? And I didn't really start with like doing pop punk music at first, because no one did it that looked like me. Like I was just like, I can't do that type of music. Like no one's gonna take me seriously. Like no one's done it before. There isn't like a face that like has already paved the way for me. So I was like, well, there's a lot of Asian jazz guitar players and there's a lot of Asian shredders. And so like, maybe I'll just do that. And like, I knew that I was going to do something in music. I just didn't know where I was going to fit yet. And I was basing it off of like who has already been successful before. And I was trying to point myself in that direction. But then like I got into Berklee and then I went to Berklee and then I saw like the kids that were there, the talent that was at that school. And I was like, fuck this. I can't be a guitar player. It was crazy, like demoralizing. In a good way. Like again, I'm one of those people where like I take like passion and drive from other people who are better than me because like I want to be good. And so like that was a really like ultimately a good thing for me because I was really competitive, I guess. And so I practiced more when I got there, but like I knew deep down that I was not going to be the next Steve Vai. Because the next Steve Vai had already existed and he was like 7 years younger than me. You know, it was like, it was already too late for me. Sure. I had to have been playing since I was in diapers. Yep. And a lot of those kids were. And I was like, that's fine. But like how, and then I just like, you know, I went through school, I coasted through school, trying to like figure out who I was. Like I didn't have an identity for myself. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that like I really liked music and I really liked the feeling of music, like how it feels when you listen to it, but then also how it feels when you play it, which are two very completely different things. And so yeah, I just like spent I was just lost for the entire college program. I was doing what they were telling me to do. And it was kind of good because like when you're in school for music, you're just so busy doing the assignments, doing the programs, like you have to practice, but you have to practice what they tell you to practice, not what you want to practice. Like you have to like play in ensembles, but you have to play in the ensembles they tell you to play in, not what you want to play in. So that you actually don't have time to develop yourself as an artist when you're in music school. Which was good because I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do. So I was just like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I was doing it. And I was a really good student. I was like objectively a very, very good student. I was not a good artist, not a good musician because I didn't know how to be. I just knew how to be a student. And then when I graduated with my bachelor's, I was like, oh shit, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, obviously a music degree doesn't grant you a job anywhere. It's just like the least granting type of document that you can get.
You just get to keep, doing your
Yeah, you just like
job you had before.
Look so
yeah,
pretty,
right.
everybody.
It's just a piece of paper that says I can play guitar. Like that's literally all it is. And so I was like, that's great. Spent 4.5 years and thousands of dollars to be like, you can play scales. So I didn't know what to do. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to more school. And so I went to grad school for that. But I made like a vow to myself when I went to grad school that I was like, all right, if I go to grad school, then I'm going to take this time and only focus on myself and develop myself as an artist or as a musician. And it was cool because it was in Spain. It was abroad. I had never been abroad before. And it was extra weird being an Asian American in Spain at an American school speaking Spanish. It was so weird, dude. It was like, it was such a weird thing. But it was cool. Spain's freaking awesome. It's also kind of lawless, which is good.
So fun fact, I actually took an entire class about Spain when I was in between going to grad school and undergrad. And Spain up until like the late 1800s was like super, super governed by Catholicism, religious rule. And as soon as that pretty much fell, they had like hundreds of years of repressed everything.
Yes.
And they just said, let's go, everybody. And it's still like that.
That makes so much sense.
It is insane to me because it's so interesting because it's still like that now. Like there's ways that they live there. I guess you could kind of compare it to a lot more people know more about how people act out, quote unquote, and that retrospect where you have more of like, that Lolita Harajuku type fashion. The people here would be like, that's kind of weird, but it's like for them, it's because they were so repressed culturally for so long. It's the same way with Spain. That's why they're so everywhere. Like in the 80s, their 80s was basically our like 60, 70 like love child movement.
That makes so much sense because like when I was there, I remember, and it was so weird too. Like when I was there as a musician, I would go into music shops and like check out guitars and stuff. And they don't let you play the guitars. They don't let you touch anything. Like you're not allowed to, because it's like really expensive there. Because the stuff it's all imported, right? So it's really expensive to get it imported because all the custom fees and stuff. And like they do not let you play the guitar. And I'm just like, here, coming from America, you just walk into a guitar center, you can pick up any guitar. Like you can literally, right. Everybody knows the story of Guitar Center. It's just. Yeah. So like me, like coming from that, like I go in and I pick up a guitar and this guy looks at me like I'm fucking crazy. He's like, who the fuck? Like, he's like, you better have 700 euros in your pocket right now.
Wow.
Like, it's like, is that crazy? And then I started playing Steve Vai stuff, right? Like, cause I fucking love Steve Vai. And I started like rocking out with Steve Vai and he's like, Steve Vai. And then he just let me play for out. He actually kept making me play.
Wow.
Like he kept me like having them. And like, I have a lot of Steve Vai songs in my repertoire. So I just kept going. Because all the 7-hour days of practicing.
Can we keep going, everybody, until they kick me out of here?
Yeah.
It's
and
like
luckily,
a real Guitar Center in the US anyway.
It's like
exactly.
Like, guys.
Yeah. And so that's what happened. And so then he was explaining to me that like it wasn't until like the 70s or like 80s they heard no American music. Like American music they never got it. Like it wasn't even on their, like didn't have radio for it or anything. And so like when I was there, like they were just discovering like the 70s, 80s metal shredders, and then also 70s and 80s like bebop jazz. So like that was like the current music for them like in 2017 was stuff that was like hip here in the 1990s and 80s. And it was just so mind-boggling to me. And they were so good too. Some of those musicians are so phenomenal. But it was just so crazy. Like they were just they were just so into like 80s rock that I was just like, dude, that was like 40 years ago for us. But like, that's cool.
Like,
that's
hey,
cool.
bestie,
Like we still
can
listen
I
to
tell
it
you
here,
something
but
else?
Yeah.
like I imagine that the culture is just like if you're hearing that all the time, then you're creating music, like making 80s type music in Europe in the 2000s, 2020. Like I know we had a lot of like 80s sounding bands or like the 1975 a shirt I'm currently wearing. It's like, it's as my friend put it, it's 80s processed through somebody who likes the 80s growing up in the 2000s or the 2010s.
Yeah, that's
it's
so
like,
interesting.
It's not really 80s, but it's also very influenced from those bands.
It's like a new version of 80s. Like I cannot, for whatever the life of me, whenever I hear original 80s music, I don't like it and I have to turn it off. But if I listen to something that's inspired by it, like I'll be like, I like this more. But I still will struggle to get to it. Like I liked After Laughter by Paramore, obviously very synthy, very 80s sounding. It took me a while to warm up to it because I was like, there's something about it.
So different from
There's
other
something
Paramore.
about it. I don't like it. But I mean, I like After Laughter now. But I'm like, I don't know. I just still can't listen to it. My dad puts on the 80s on 8 sometimes when he's in my car, and I'm like, oh, can we put All Nation on?
Yeah, like that's the thing too. Like there's I had like a playlist of 80s songs that like I used to put on because there's a lot of fundamental guitar stuff that I used to like learn from those songs. But like I can't sit through them again either. Like even like remastered versions and like remixed versions, it's just like it doesn't hit the same way that modern music does. And I think it's just like we've just been hit with such like good digital sounding music that it's just really hard to like.
Our ears are just changing.
Yeah, our ears are developed.
Yeah.
Like if I hear
sophisticated,
and I will say this to any old punk kids or whatever that come at me, but like if you think that any punk bands like first records that were recorded on, I don't know, like an apple and a potato, it's like I'm not.
Wow, all right.
I'm not gonna listen to this. This sounds like shit. And of course, they go on to make better sounding records, and those records influenced a lot of artists that then came from there. And I'm like, yeah, I'll listen to that. I can't listen to this. This literally sounds like shit.
I remember I saw a TikTok recently, and it was somebody critiquing. Oh no, it was one I actually sent in our Discord last night, and it was about the problematic bands people listen to, and if they're red flags for people. And one of them was Black Flag, and they're like, "Why do people listen to this? This sounds like you just recorded it on like whatever and just put it out, and it's so grainy and crunchy." And I'm like, "Yo, that's what it's supposed to sound like, my guy."
And like. Now I think we look at it from a 2020 end or 2021 end and we say, you know, there were a lot of people that didn't have access to a lot more than that. Like once GarageBand and Max like came out to everybody and everybody started recording in their bedroom, it was still like the music is changing. And now that it's in more people's hands, it obviously goes from there. But I'm like, okay, these are guys that didn't learn how to play their instruments and recorded it on like a microphone a couple rooms away. Like, there's also that sort of thing of like, it became better. And obviously like democratizing the ability for everybody to get recording equipment and record it all for themselves in their bedroom. Like beautiful thing, great thing. Just for me personally, I can't listen to it.
And you know, that's a thing that like, that I don't think people talk enough about is like that this generation and I guess the previous generation that first had access to like home recording software, it was like the internet. It was like it opened literally the floodgates for creativity. Whereas like before then you couldn't really get into a studio unless you were signed to a label, right? Because you couldn't afford to do that.
Afford that. To record the shitty things that you're working on at home with your acoustic guitar with untuned strings. I'm speaking from experience. Go on.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm sorry, I want to be the next Front Bottoms, and that's how we're sticking to it.
I did not.
Right, exactly. So the only music you heard was music on the radio or music that was produced by a record label, and they only signed acts that sounded a certain way because they knew it would sell. So it was just like a constant repetition of like bands that sounded like other bands, and so we're going to sign them. We're going to give them the money to sign to like record music, et cetera, et cetera. They wouldn't risk it on artists that sounded different because they couldn't tell if it was going to sell. So they wouldn't sign artists like that. And then when home recording became a thing, like people just started fucking around on DAWs, and like SoundCloud came a thing, and like people started posting their music. And then like the music industry was realized that like, wow, our audience, like they like to choose what music they want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's when you got like Billie Eilish.
Yep.
And like, like
we definitely can draw a line from garage band to Billie Eilish, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
The real cool thing is that now recently, me being the Barbie enthusiast I am, so every year they have like a career of the year for Barbie, and they'll make like a special edition like Barbie doll. And this year is because so many people were making like lo-fi bedroom beats and like starting to like blow up on TikTok and being like individual artists. That like their career of the year is like a music producer, which I think is insane, because I feel like in the past we have told so many people like you can't do anything in music, it's not going to be lucrative and it's really hard to get into. But because of everything with COVID and people just wanting to do stuff on their own and like needing to do stuff on their own, people learn and develop those skills, and now it's like actually more accessible for so many more people than it was prior.
Yes. It's crazy. And it's crazy too, because like not only are there just like ridiculously creative people making music, but there are ridiculously creative people collaborating, which creates something like also crazy. It's like chemistry, where it's like you don't know what chemicals are going to react with other chemicals, but something crazy is going to happen, and it's literally happening all the time.
I love that about
I
love that it's finally in the rock scene too. I know it's still very like it's hard to get in there with like a lot of other influences, but and this can kind of transition into our conversation about Asian American influence. But it is like now that more people are coming into different genres from different backgrounds, different races, and different places around the United States and places around the world, it's like music can get a little bit more integrated and have those different influences. And personally, I think sound a lot better. Like just overall, I think that music is sounding better because more people of different backgrounds are in it. And so, we did talk a little bit about this before we started recording, so I'm sorry to make you repeat yourself.
All good.
But we were talking during Riot Fest. You had messaged us because we had Action Adventure on. We had Action Adventure in a video. Go check it out on our YouTube. And also we were catching them at Riot Fest, and Blake being another singer in a pop punk band of Asian descent. It's obviously that there is more representation in the pop punk scene, in the rock scene. A story for you. I DJ Emo Night LA here in Chicago with a friend of mine. And I turned to a friend of mine who runs at Chelsea, and I was like, I'm just going to say this. I see an Asian couple in the audience. And like, for me, I always love to play music by non-cisgender heterosexual white men. You know, it's like, I just want to play other shit because like,
there's not much of it.
And that sucks. And people don't ever request it. And that also sucks.
The issue is that it's so much more modern now that like we could listen to it. Yeah. But if we put it on, like, people at like an Emo Night LA are not going to go. They're going to run to the bar the same way. Yeah.
And you kind of have to be a little aggressive about it. Like, yo, you should check out this band. Like, if I play Action Adventure at Emo Night LA, which I totally would do, just play like one song just to like celebrate them and put them, you know, on people's radar. Like, people are like, oh, I like this song. So I was looking for like a popular Asian American artist, and the only band I could think of like from that time was My American Heart, which is like the one. And I remember seeing them at a Warped Tour once and being like, oh, this band is pretty good, but never really checking them out. And like, I don't think it would really hit with many people. I don't think it's on their radar where they're like, oh shit, I remember this song, which is literally the only thing you play at emo nights.
Like, I've never heard of that band.
See,
I have heard of them. I haven't checked them out.
Yeah,
but I have heard of them. I know the name.
They did a cover on Punk Goes Crunk of the California Love cover.
That might be.
That's where like I've heard their only song. It's also a very good cover. Punk Goes Crunk is one of the best ones. But yeah, it's like there haven't been that many. And when I look at like Black representation, I can think of Gym Class Heroes. Like, it immediately comes to mind. Women, representation is obviously much more, still not enough. It's mostly like, oh yeah, y'all sound like Paramore, but it's like,
it's like Paramore, Avril Lavigne,
Flyleaf,
What I love recently is that I handle a lot of our press for the podcast. So like I'll get press releases and a lot of more like non-male, like female or non-binary people's bands, they'll send it and say like for fans of, and they're not even saying Paramore. They're just saying any band, whether it's like a male fronted band, female fronted, whatever fronted, and they're just going for it. And
that's good.
That's good. And I'm like, you know what? That's much better for me because if I'm describing it to somebody and I say, oh, this band sounds like Paramore because there's a chick lead singer, and they're like, yo, this does not sound like Paramore.
Yeah,
why would you tell me that?
Female fronted isn't a genre.
Female front is not a genre.
It's not a genre. It's a descriptor, and that's great, but that doesn't dictate how somebody sounds.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't sound
a genre.
Yeah. They're fucking awesome, though. I love Paramore.
Fucking love Paramore.
Yeah.
Oh my god, absolutely. So much. Okay, wait. Favorite album or song?
Brand New Eyes.
Brand New Eyes.
All we know is Falling is my favorite
Lizzie,
album.
it's Brand New Eyes.
Brand New Eyes.
Emergency and Conspiracy are my favorite.
Emergency is really good.
Are my favorite Paramore songs.
Yeah.
I am OG Paramore.
I love Brand New Eyes. Looking Up.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite song on that album of all time. I listen to that song.
All I Wanted, though. Like, blows my fucking mind.
That's back on the Billboard charts, apparently. And people are like, hey, is everyone all right out there? No,
Nope.
we're not.
Sure.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you been?
No.
Have you been here? No
Dude.
One's good.
No one's, no, I 1000% agree. And we need new Paramore. Haley Williams and Taylor and
Taylor York and not Jeremy because he's being a weird SoundCloud rapper.
Jeremy can't make it. But I do want you to speak on just that representation in the scene, because like I definitely feel like that is, to me, from what what we've done here, seeing it on our end, is like that's probably where there is the least amount of representation still in American music. That isn't, there are bands from 2005 that are Asian bands or Asian identifying bands. So like, now that we're getting more of it out here in these years, like how does that make you feel? How does it make it for the scene now going forward?
It makes me feel a lot less crazy. It makes me feel like I'm fighting against less odds. I'm still waiting. So here's the thing. Okay. So there's a couple of different like points, and I could literally talk about this forever. But the main thing is that I'm starting like, it used to be where I would discover like one Asian American artist like every couple of months or maybe once a year. I've discovered 3 in the past month. And that's just like exponentially more than ever. So like obviously Blake being the lead singer of Action Adventure, who just got signed to Pure Noise, which is awesome because it's so great to see a band that's fronted by an Asian American dude be signed to a label, especially one like Pure Noise. Yeah. And then I just found another one the other day called Ivy Paint. They're from Florida, and I just literally like DM'd the lead singer Sean on Instagram, and he's freaking awesome. So like it's just really cool to see that it's happening more. The thing is that the one thing that I'm still missing is just a solo artist, right? And that I'm a solo artist only because like it's just a whole big thing. But like I write all my music, I write all the parts, I write everything, I do all the storyboard. Like I literally do 100% of everything except for like holding the camera and like moving the clips and editing and stuff. So it's hard because like I feel like if I don't have the back band of white dudes, I still won't be taken seriously because it doesn't feel like I feel like I'm a gamble or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't have the reassurance that there are like American people, American white dudes behind me, like, oh, this is a band and there's just one dude who's Asian American, so it's still okay. But like sometimes I feel like being a solo Asian American emo artist, like I'm not going to be looked at like Jaden or Youngblood or Machine Gun Kelly because they're doing the same thing. Like they're all solo artists doing this genre, but they don't need help, right? Yeah. And so like that's like the part where I get like a little nervous, where I'm just like, am I still not going to get taken seriously because I'm a solo artist? Like I don't know. So, and like, if you're in a band with like other dudes, like they're balancing you out, right? So that's kind of how I see it. And it could be very skewed. Like I could just be very biased but that's just like kind of like my subconscious thinking sometimes. But I do want to point out that I think there is a logical explanation as to why there aren't a lot of Asian American artists in the scene. Not because, I mean, obviously, besides the fact that we are a minority, so there's less of us. But the other thing is that, and this is just from personal experience, I don't know if this is true or if there's like statistical research on this, but I'm a first generation American, which means that my parents came to the United States as immigrants, right? And generally, and we know this throughout history, that immigrants, when they come into the United States, especially if they're not white immigrants, they are very low class, impoverished, poor, et cetera, et cetera. So they settle in urban and low income areas because what are they going to do? They're going to work in factories. They're going to be like grinding their asses off to like make a living, because the whole reason they came here was for a better life, right? Mm-hmm. So that means that their kids, me and their first generation like Asian Americans, grow up in these urban areas surrounded by other low income impoverished families, a lot of whom are Black, right, or Latino. And so a lot of them grow up listening to the same music, which is predominantly hip hop, rap, R&B, and sometimes pop. And so whenever I do see an Asian American artist, they're usually in the hip hop or like pop or R&B genre, right? And like that's the thing. Like I can name a handful of Asian American artists who are in like the R&B and pop and hip hop genre. And like shout out to Jin, who was one of the first Asian American rappers to ever get signed. One Freestyle Friday on MTV.
I remember Jin.
Yeah, see, you remember Jin?
Yeah, I remember Jin.
The thing is, he got dropped by his label because they wanted him to sing. They wanted him to like rap about being Chinese American, and he just wanted to rap, and they dropped him because of that. Or I don't know if he got dropped, but like it was like a huge thing, and he fell off because they wouldn't support him because they were trying to like tokenize him, and so like that sucked. And so like, and that's just kind of it's like historically how Asian Americans have been treated in the music industry. It's like you're a token, like your audience is only going to be Asian American people. So you're going to have to make songs about being Asian American. And so that's like really frustrating. And so even when like us first generation Americans do find success in the music industry, it's usually it's usually backfired because of other people getting involved, telling us like, this is not what people want to hear, or this is not what people want to see, or whatever like that. And so like, that's where it's frustrating. And so it's very rare to find people who do pop punk, alternative, like rock music that are Asian American, because a lot of them don't grow up listening to that.
I believe it's that. And I know recently, our friend Amanda Tran, who's in the Morning, she is also an Asian American like pop punk act. And I remember she tweeted out a few weeks ago, oh, we should be looking into like something similarly, like kind of like a socioeconomical like analysis of how many, first generation kids of immigrants had to start their type of like music career later because their families expected them to do a lot more beforehand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a really interesting perspective because, and then I saw a lot of other, other minorities as well, just saying like, yes, I had to do this. Like I'm first generation college student. So like I had to do a lot of different stuff that like, maybe I didn't really want to do the first time because like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yes.
I had to set a precedent for like all my siblings, the rest of everyone else in my family. And to look at that and then be like, oh man, I could have done XYZ, but I couldn't because I didn't have that privilege.
Dude.
And I think that's the biggest thing along with it is that like you need to have that type of privilege. And being somebody who's first generation, pretty immigrant, student, whatever it may be, you have to put aside your own personal honestly goals and like mindset and sometimes even like your own personal convictions to make sure that you're setting a better precedent and also like making those in your family like proud of you and stick by you because like you feel you have a moral obligation. And I think that's just in general something that has been talked about widely, but I think when it comes to music, it's not discussed as much because especially like pop punk and emo, again, everybody's like a white dude or a white individual who has not had to experience those struggles to that extent. And when you bring it in, one, you create a better community of people who just understand you better, but two, it also opens up bigger dialogue that has never really been discussed in this scene, and it makes people uncomfortable, which is good because then it makes them more receptive to those struggles of everybody else that they've never had to experience before, most likely.
Ooh, you opened up a jar. You opened up a can because let me tell you, okay, so that's something that I haven't like actually had to think about for a very long time because I'm just like I get in such a routine, right? So everything to me at this point is normalized. Sometimes I am woken up by the fact that I definitely have to work, and I mentioned this before, so much harder than other people to achieve the same level of results or like the same level of recognition or whatever it may be. Part of that is because of just literally the way I look. And a lot of it has to do with, like you said, the way that I was raised and the expectations that are placed on first generation anything's really, and especially people of color and Asian Americans. Like, and another thing about Asian Americans, and which I'm sure you know, is that the way that we're raised, like with an Eastern like mindset, it's like family comes first, right? So in my family, it's parents are treated above all, like they're placed above all. Everything you do or say, you need your parents' approval. You need like, and they are the end goal. Like you have, at the end of the, like they expect you when they're unable to work, they expect you to take care of them. And like, that's like elders are respected above all else, et cetera, which is completely conflicting with the American mindset.
Yeah. It's
right?
very
Because
collectivist in nature because I'm
exactly.
Mexican, and that's how a lot,
Yeah.
like one side of my family is, it's very like that. The other side, and it's very very strange.
It's very clashing. It's super clashing. And so it's like, and it's hard too, because like, sometimes I want to fault. Sometimes I want to like get mad at my parents. I'm just like you brought me here. Like, this is the way that I am. Like, I'm an American. Like, I was raised American. Like, I want to go out and do my dreams. I want to like be a capitalist, whatever, like eat the rich. Eat the rich. I know. But we're raised with a capitalist mindset because we're in America. So it's like, everything's about you. It's about making money. It's about being successful for yourself, and then putting your parents in retirement homes when they're ready. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's this constant battle between like me having the mindset ingrained from a very young age of like, you got to take care of your parents because like they came here and like literally sacrificed everything for you to be here. And then I'm like, that's great. And I want to do that, but I can't be successful and do that at the same time. It's like, am I literally only raised to take care of you? Because then what did you come here for? Because then I'm not going to be successful in the thing that you brought me here to do, you know? And so that's really conflicting. And so like, I've had to like balance that my entire life. Like literally I've been doing my parents' taxes since I was 14.
Damn.
I've been doing
it.
You
know math.
Yeah.
I know how to copy numbers into boxes.
There we go. That's more than me. I take it to somebody.
I know. Hard, and it's just, thank God for like TurboTax at this point.
Yeah.
But straight up, like that's what like I've been having to do that for my parents, like stuff like that for my whole life. Like I remember back in college, like my parents are divorced. And that's another thing too. When you have a family that comes from a different set of marital standards, like there was an arranged marriage there. I don't want to say that they didn't love each other. There wasn't like love at first sight. It was kind of like, you are in a new country. This is your match because he's also Cambodian. You're Cambodian. You're not related to each other. So there you go. And so me and my siblings were born. And then the thing that I've started to notice, especially with like some of my family members, and this is a little bit gossipy, but like people will Asian American couples or families will come to the United States and realize how much more freedom Asian American women have. And they realize that they don't have to stay with their husbands, and then they get divorced or whatever it is. And it's just like, you come to the United States and you realize like there's more freedom to like be a woman. And so like, I want to say that's probably partly what happened with my parents. Like they divorced when I was like 10 or 12 or so. And it was just like, my mom has never been alone ever in her entire life. She was brought here when she was like 10 years old. She didn't finish high school. So like there was always people taking care of her. And so she's never had the chance to live on her own. And so when she went through this divorce, she was with another guy. I thought he was a nice dude or whatever. But then that didn't work out either. And I remember being in Spain and they had bought a house together. They weren't even married yet. Like this was my mom's fiance, I guess, at the time. And she it just didn't work out. And I had to sell the house for them. I had to sell their house. I had to list their house.
Oh my God.
While I was in Spain. Like I was having phone calls like internationally with a mortgage broker. Like, cause my mom just couldn't read documents. She could barely like communicate. Like she can speak English. She can get by, but like she doesn't know terms, right? Like she knows like really like slang American English.
Okay.
Like, yeah. So like she can definitely communicate with you, but like she couldn't handle a conversation like that. So like I was like having to do this on the phone, like literally in Spain, 6-hour time difference, like me like juggling graduate school in a different country in a language that I don't understand, selling my mom's house at home, figuring out her living situation. And like, those are the type of things that I've always had to do and still doing while working a full-time job, while trying to maintain like my health to keep myself alive, trying to do a music career at like the extent that I'm doing it, going broke because of it, like, and then of course there's like I have a full life here. Like I have a girlfriend and I have pets and you know what I mean? And it's just like, and this is like the kind of stuff that we have to do. And because like, this is just like what we have to do. We just have to work this much harder to like reach that status quo that like a lot of people really don't have to do. And I really wonder sometimes like if people like us didn't have to work so hard, if like we would actually like excel or not, So that's just like always in the back of my head. Sorry, that was a tangent.
No, it's fine.
No,
we should talk about your music too. I realize.
Yeah, I'm so
No, I actually love these conversations being, a piece of shit white boy from the suburbs. It's like,
dude,
it's nice to, it's like good to like give the stage for this kind of stuff and just be like, hey, there isn't this representation. These are the stories of people like why there might not be as much representation. So I do think it's an important conversation, and certainly there are not enough voices being heard on it. So I love that we go on these tangents and talk about all this stuff.
Right.
But I just do want to promote you.
Yeah. I think also too, though, like a lot of that can go into your music and what you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
So could you tell us about some of the influences, especially in like your most recent singles, Use Me All Along, that came out? And also the other singles that you've worked on with Chris from Thanksgiving Dance with.
Yeah. So, okay. So, how do I start with that? Okay. So here's the thing. Last year, I dropped my album last year. Like it was a self-produced album, Songs of Recovery. And that album was all about the brain tumor that I had. And there's still like material about that is just in the ether somewhere. But I dropped that last year, and that was happening at a time where I was working full time. I was going to school again. This is not, so I went to, so I have 2 master's degrees.
Lex.
Damn.
Don't do it. I don't recommend. The first was performance. Like I was a guitar player. I got a performance master's in performance at Berklee College of Music. And then the second master's degree was in music technology at NYU, because you can't get a job with a performance degree. So I was like, let me get a music tech degree. That's a technical degree that's still in the realm of music. And maybe I can go teach audio production somewhere. And like, I'm a decent producer and engineer. So like, I self-produce all of my stuff up until working with Chris. And so like, but I was doing Songs of Recovery while working a full-time job, doing this NYU program, which was a lot more intense than a performance degree. It was a lot more intense than I thought it was going to be. And then I was producing 2 bands on the side. And so it was just a lot. And by the time that I was like finishing mixing and mastering the album, I was just like so jaded by the music, and I wasn't finding joy in the music. And I had been working on this album for so long that like I just couldn't tell what was good or not good anymore. And then after I dropped the album, I was just like, I never ever want to self-produce a music like an album ever again. I never even want to mix again. Like it was just like, and I used to love mixing. I lost so much confidence in my like mixing abilities after dropping that record, because I was just so jaded. And then I was still writing music, obviously, during all of this, because I knew that as soon as I dropped this, I'd have to start writing more music. And so I was writing music, and I had a couple of songs that were different sounding that I thought might not fit on this album. And the first one was Signing Out, which was the one that I dropped in May. And that one's about like, that was about the night that I found out that I had a brain tumor. And it didn't sound super pop punk. It was just like a little bit more post-hardcore. And I was just like, I don't want to mix this, but this is like a really good song. And so I was like, this has to get out somehow. And so I was just like thinking about that specific song. And I was like, who would like, do I know any producers? And I couldn't think of anyone that I knew like personally. So I was like, maybe I just like look up to some of the bands that I listen to and see if any of those people are approachable. And I reached out to John Feldman, no response, obviously. Johnny Feldman.
I got my thoughts, but go on.
And then I reached out to Chris and I emailed him, and I was like, he's not going to respond to me at all. And then like a week and a half later, he was like, hey, this is kind of dope. I like it. Here are my rates. And I was like, oh my God, he responded to me. And like, I was like, this guy responded to me. I have to do it. And so I was like, so then I spent time working on new material to bring to him. One being Runs on Guilt, which is also a little bit more post-hardcore sounding. And then I knew that I wanted to do 3 songs with him. So I did the first 2, Signing Out and Runs on Guilt. Like I knew I was going to do those 2 when I went to him, because he lives in Portland. So I had to like fly out to Portland to do it. So like this was like an endeavor. Like I knew that if I was going to go, like this has to be like the trajectory. Like, and I knew that working with him, that would guarantee some name recognition. And so I decided to do it. And then I wrote 2 other songs. One was Used Me, and the other was another song that's unreleased. And I was only gonna do 3 songs, so I had to pick one. So I sent him both of the demos, and he was like, I really like Used Me. But it wasn't called Used Me at the time. I think it was like, literally was like a number. It was like number 14 or something. It gets really confusing. Really confusing, like with the numbers. But he picked that song, and I was like, really? This is like a throwaway track. And then I get there, like we show up, and he was like, I'm really excited about this one. So I get into the studio and we start tracking it. And like by the end of the song, like by the time that it was finished, I was like, oh, this is the best one. Like this is the best one. And that happened recently too, because I was just in Portland finishing the album, like that these songs are going to be on. So we just did like 6 more songs. And there was another track that was a throwaway track that I was like, let's just do this one because I need like fluff for the album, I guess. It's the best one. And so I'm really excited because there's better music coming. And it's always good. That's always a really good feeling, because I'm always afraid that I'm just going to hit a wall and never like have better music coming. But if I can like keep myself interested in my own music by having at least one better song in my back pocket every single time I drop one, then like I know that like I can keep going, you know? Sorry, did you want to talk about influences or just the story?
Because I want to hear about your. Great. Yeah, I mean, if you want to say Dance Gavin Dance, I absolutely love Dance Gavin Dance. I love Will Swan's guitar. I love Tilly and
the Wheelies, man.
Yeah. So are there going to be Wheelies on your future songs?
Yeah. That's why I went to Chris too, because I knew that he could make that sound happen.
Yeah.
But dude, I haven't met Will, but he is just on a completely different level of just genius guitar writing. Like no one sounds like him.
Yep.
And I love that.
Have him drop a TC lick on there, you know? Just like, hey, Will, send some.
And I love guitars. I love guitars. Like I'm such a guitar boy.
Yeah.
So, and like I love Polyphia so much. Mm-hmm. Like everything that Tim Henson does is just pure gold. So like I do have a lot of influence from like guitar music. and like some stuff is inspired by like Polyphia/Chan math rocky stuff. But like I've really been, I think this year, the artists that have had the most influence on me this year, it's probably, I want to say Nothing Nowhere, Meet Me at the Altar.
Absolutely.
God, I love Nothing Nowhere so much.
So fucking good.
Nothing Nowhere official stan club here right now on the Switch stream.
I haven't met a single person who isn't a stan for, like, I've never met anyone who doesn't like his stuff.
Listen, if somebody at this point says that they dislike Nothing Nowhere, I don't know if I could trust
what's wrong
them.
with you? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I've listened to like all of his stuff, and I also like love his like podcast that he's done, and like just like listening to him as an artist, like talking about mental health, because it's like such a serious thing for him, which is really good because like I think one of the podcasts that he was talking about, he was like he's still living in Vermont, right? He hasn't moved to LA, which he's like I could. And I probably should if I really wanted to take my career to the next level. And he's like, but I would probably have a mental breakdown. And he's like, I need this nature. I need like the woods. And I was like, dude, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like we're past the point of needing to be in the right spot at the right time now because of the internet. And so like, that's just like so respectable. Like I respect that so much.
Does he make his own like maple syrup too?
Yeah, he does. He does a bunch of like crazy, like really obscure things.
Maple syrup.
Yeah. It's like really interesting, like obscure things, which is awesome. And so, yeah, he's like been one of my favorite artists this year. Meet Me at the Altar. Love everything that everything that they do. I love like the way that they're like the direction that they're taking easycore in. I love that so much. So a lot of my songs, like some of these songs are pretty easycore heavy.
Hell yeah.
And they're inspired by them.
Bring it back.
Oh my God, dude. I have a lot of pop punk songs that I haven't released. So like this year has been very emo, right?
Nice.
And that's fine because we're in the panini.
It absolutely should be.
but like I was writing this album and I was like, man, I got like 5 or 6 emo songs on here. Like, let me get some pop punk in here. And so like I started writing pop punk, and but this is after I've been listening to Meet Me at the Altar and like this new punk wave. And like some of this stuff is good, some of this stuff is gonna hit. So like I got some easycore coming along the way. There's a lot more pop punk. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, those two for sure like are always on my, and also Stan Atlantic. I didn't discover them before this year. Actually didn't hear about them until they did that song with Nothing Nowhere, Death Wish. Death Wish is probably the most spun song on my Spotify all year. It's an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. It's one of the best songs that came out this year. So I love that sound. And so yeah, those are the artists that have heavily influenced this album.
Well, when can we expect this new album then?
Okay, so the thing is that it's no longer the best method to just drop an album, at least like someone with my level of like with my level of like, so I have to release everything as a single. So I'm just gonna have to like roll out singles, and then at the end of it, I'll compile it all together. But the thing is that I still wrote it with an album in mind. So like I still wrote the songs and I selected the songs thinking about how is this going to end up as a complete package. I'm just going to release them song by song. And so Use Me just dropped like, I guess 2 weeks ago. Tomorrow, Friday is going to be a lyric video drop. And then 2 weeks from that, October 8th is the music video. And this one's kind of dope because it's really like, it's really spooky horror themed.
Yes.
It's like perfect for Halloween. And it's got a lot of inspiration from The Haunting of Hill House and Insidious and The Shining.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff. And dude, the best story about this is that when we shot this, right? So I've been like going on this release schedule plan of dropping a single, and then 2 weeks later the lyric, and then 2 weeks later the music video. And I'm going to do this for every single song, which is a lot. It's a lot. I've never done this many music videos before.
Everyone's going to have to know the lyrics though, because they're going to have no excuse.
No
excuse.
Yeah. That's why I drop a lyric video.
Yeah.
And so it's been like, I thought that because I finished my grad program at NYU, I thought that this year was going to be a lot easier for me because I wasn't doing 4 extra things. I stopped producing other bands. I stopped working part-time jobs. I'm just doing my full-time job, which is like an ordinary 9-to-5 job, and doing this. I'm way busier than I've ever been because of the sheer level of production that these music videos take. Like and we're getting really good at them. Like I'm starting to get really good at music videos, and and they're my favorite part because I am like a total film like geek. I love movies, right? Which started during the pandemic because I would just get high and watch movies.
Sure.
I've seen Interstellar so many times this year.
Oh my God.
I still haven't watched it, and I watched a video of essay on it.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I've seen so many weird takes on it. I'm like, what is going on with everybody in this movie?
Yeah.
It's so good. I don't know if it's your thing, if it's like if you're like into sci-fi.
It'll be my thing.
Yeah.
Dude, watch it.
Brian, I'm coming over and we're watching it because the only time I can watch anything is when we're hanging out.
You will feel every single feeling possible, like every single human emotion possible. You will feel that feeling. If you cry watching movies, you will cry watching this movie several times.
Okay. I'll prepare myself for that.
and you'll think about it for days. You'll think about it for days. It is my ultimate escapism movie, for sure. So it was really good for me during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So anyways, I got so these videos are like, we did 3 music videos this year. We just finished this one, and we got really good at them. I got really good at storyboarding music videos this year. So like whenever I don't like to do easy videos or easy. I don't like to do just like one performance shot in like a white cyclorama. Like I think that's so boring to me. So like, and I love to tell stories. So like when I make my music videos, I got to make sure like everything is really tight. There's like a sonic message and there's like a story that's being told. So I love to combine like narrative elements with like really cool performance shots. And so it's just a really, really heavy production effort. And we have a really small team because I'm broke as hell. So like, it's just like me and like 3 other people. So it's like, it's a lot. And like, we're all involved at every step of the process. Like my video director, Mike, is an absolute G. Like we have spent like hundreds of hours this year editing videos together. Just like last night we edited, I think last night at 3 a.m. marked our 17th hour editing this one video, and we still have like a couple more hours of edits to do. But so this video, sorry, it's a really long story, but it's rewarding, I promise.
Let's hype the video up.
So what happened was, in January was when I went to Portland for the first time to record with Chris Crummett, right? I dropped Songs of Recovery in November of last year, and then I immediately started working on new music. I had booked a studio session with Chris like 7 months in advance. So I had been waiting for the session before I even dropped the album, right? So like I wasn't like, at this point, like I was, even before the album dropped, Songs of Recovery, I was already thinking about next year. Like I was already thinking about these next couple of songs. And so in January, we went to Portland, we recorded all 3 songs, I had everything done. And then the month after, in February, we were going up to Vermont for a snowboarding trip because I love snowboarding. It's like my new hobby ever since music stopped becoming a hobby and became a job. That's a pro tip for any artist. Like if you're going to do music as a career, find another hobby that is not related. Yeah, you got to have something that's not music related.
That you can't monetize off of. I've seen this so much.
Yes.
And I think the only thing that I can do now is just read. Because my brain is like, I have to do that. I'm like, reading.
Do you like fantasy?
Reading.
I love fantasy. I'm a big person in like fairies and vampires, like for books.
Have you ever read The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss?
No.
I will always recommend that book to people. It's not for everyone, but the series is called The King Killer Chronicles, and
I like that.
It's a very, very, very fresh take on the fantasy genre, because it's not like based in Lord of the Ring culture, and it's not based in Harry Potter culture. It's like a completely fresh take of like, it's a completely different world, and the world building in this book is so incredible. The writing style is so incredibly poetic. A lot of my lyrics are inspired because of reading his books. Like this, like some of his like phrasing has like come up in my writing. I highly recommend it. The first like 100 pages of the first book is kind of tough to get through, but once you get through that part and you get into the main part of the story, you won't be able to put it down. And it's one of those types of books that it's more rewarding on the second and third read.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, that was a plug for Patrick.
Alice is also in the chat, like going off
Emo
about it.
Social
So Alice is a
Bookstream
fan.
Club, guys.
But okay, so February, we were in Vermont to go snowboarding. And we booked an Airbnb in Vermont that I thought it was like a really cool house. It was just, oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't say this. I don't know if I was allowed to shoot a music video there, but I did.
That's how you do it.
They don't know.
They don't know. I
Are
hope they don't find out.
you?
So okay, I don't know, but I think that this house is kind of famous in Vermont, anyways, because when I got there, I thought it was dope because it's like this really like large wooden house, and it was really big, really really high ceilings. There was like 3 floors, and it was a very open type of house. So like you could be on the 3rd floor and you could see all the way down to the 1st floor, and it's just like really beautiful wood and stuff like that. And on the 3rd floor, there was like this little terrace hallway that led to this nook in the corner of the 3rd floor, whatever terrace. And it wasn't a terrace. What are those things? You know, like those apartment lofts. Yeah, it was like a 3rd floor loft. It was the entire 3rd floor was like a loft, right? And you could see all the way down. At the end of one loft was these like pull out. It was like these like the sofas and like a 2 sofas that were facing each other that people could sleep on. And then there was like a narrow walkway that led to the other side of the loft, and there was a desk and a bookshelf. And I thought it was kind of odd because the bookshelf was flush against the wall. Like it wasn't a bookshelf that like was like somebody bought and put there. It was built into the wall. And it wasn't until the second day that I just pushed on the bookshelf and it opened.
Holy shit.
And there was a hidden room.
God,
there was
I will lose my goddamn mind.
Shit.
There was a fucking hidden room in this like Airbnb. It was not advertised. It was not in the listing. There was no mention of it whatsoever.
Everybody
I remember
find the secret.
Dude, I remember like scouring the listing to see if it was there, like looking over the notes from the owner, like don't go into, like there was nothing, no mention of it whatsoever. And all that was behind it was just a room, a beanbag chair, like a painting of like a flower, and then a bathroom. Right. So it was obviously like meant to be like used, like because there was a bathroom there. So like we called it the Dookie Dungeon. It was the Dookie Dungeon. So it was like if you have to take a shit, go upstairs to the 3rd floor and poop up there.
You
so
can go do that and the rest afterwards. And
yeah. Or just like bring a book in there from the bookshelf.
Oh my God.
And so we found this on the second day. And here's the thing: when I first stepped into the house, before I found the secret room or whatever, I was talking to Mike, my video director, about possibly coming up to do a photo shoot, like, cause like, oh, this is like a really beautiful location. And I was on a real nothing nowhere kick. So I was like, he lives in Vermont, like, let's get that nothing nowhere outside snow aesthetic. And then I walked into the room and I called them back. I was like, dude, you have to bring your gear. I was like, we're shooting a video here. I don't know what we're going to do, but you're going to bring your shit and we're going to film. So homeboy drove 7 straight fucking hours that night with Phil, his other, like the second camera hand, to this place. I was FaceTiming him as I was like, dude, you have to come, like, look at this place. and so he's like, all right, I'm packing my shit. So he packed his shit in his car, drove 7 hours to Vermont to this house. And then on his way up driving was when I found the room. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to do a haunted house music video. and so I was like, bring your fog, bring your haze, bring your lights, like all this stuff. And so we started shooting. So it was rough, dude. It was like, it was supposed to be a vacation for me to relax, and it ended up being the least relaxing moment one of the least relaxing moments. Cause when you go snowboarding up like in those mountains, like the mountains aren't lit, so they close really early. Like they close at sundown, and sundown in the winter is like 4 o'clock, especially on the mountains. So you have to be up on the mountain by 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock if you want to get any like good snowboarding time. And so we were up at like 7 a.m. every day, back at 4. This is like me after like 10 hours of snowboarding and then 7 more hours of shooting. So like it was just, I was dying at the end of like the second day, and we still had 2 more days of shooting. So like it was rough. It was really, really rough. And this was before we had our like routine for music videos established. Like we didn't establish our music video filming routine until we recorded Signing Out, the music video for Signing Out. And so we were just filming stuff, and we were just like thinking of ideas off the cuff, and we're just like, oh, this would be a really cool shot. Let's just do this. And so like we came up with the idea because my girlfriend was with me, and she's a makeup artist. So luckily she had her stuff. Well, she didn't have all of her stuff. She had to improvise. But like we're like, okay, haunted house. What is the song that we're going to do this for? It ended up being Used Me, my favorite one. And I was like, okay, well, how can we fit a haunted house theme for this song, like lyrically? And I was like, oh, I'm getting haunted by the ghost of my ex. Easy. Oh. And so Jojo, like we're like, okay, you have to like ghost makeup, like gothic ghost, like think of like Helena from like My Chemical Romance, like, you know what I mean? And so then Mike, while I was snowboarding, Mike drove like literally 2 hours because we were in the middle of fucking nowhere. He drove to the nearest mall, I think in Burlington. And he like, it was so funny. He was literally like lingerie shopping for my girlfriend, and had no idea what to get her or anything. God. So he got like a bunch of different things and brought it back. One thing fit perfectly well, so we were lucky. And so like, yeah, we just like had her do makeup, and like we were just doing all these shots, and we we're like, oh, wouldn't it be really cool if she was a ghost? And so she's hidden all over this music video, like. If it's one of those videos that you can watch like 6 times and find her hidden in the shot somewhere every time.
It's very like Hill House.
That's exactly what I wanted, right? So like, and this is like after I watched Hill House again, and so I just wanted to make sure that like she could. So we pop her in like little places every now and then, and so there's a lot of like that, and then obviously I had to throw in the hidden room in the music video. So that that was the fuel for the entire thing. So there's a lot of cool stuff, and I'm really excited about this one. It should be finished tomorrow. So,
well, let's go ahead and throw your plugs out here. We will wrap up the recording of the podcast, talk with chat a little bit. But yeah, where can everybody find you on the internet? Where can everybody, check out the music and the video and all that good stuff?
Okay, so on the internet, you can just on Instagram and TikTok, you can find me at Darro_C, DARRO_C. I do have a website. It's darrochea.com, DARROCHEA.com. I don't really use it yet much. I know a lot of people don't use websites, but it exists. Spotify, Spotify, Apple Music. You can literally just search Darro. I'm the only Asian person on the platform that has that name. And so Use Me lyric video drops tomorrow on the 24th, right? Today's the 23rd. Yes. And then October 8th is the release date for this spooky music video for Used Me. And we put a lot of work into this, and I hope that you guys can enjoy it.
Hell yeah.
Because I certainly do.
The crew is definitely into spooky stuff, so I think that it'll find.
I'll send you a sneak peek. Ooh,
I'll send you a sneak peek. Ooh, I like that for us. Yeah, not for anybody in chat. Not for anybody listening. It's like, sorry.
We've gotten a few sneak peeks, and everyone's like, "Ooh, can I listen?" No.
Sorry. Yes.
I'll send it to you.
Well, thank you, Darro, for joining us on the pod.
Thank you for having me.
This was great.
This is so good. It's so much fun talking to you.